Welcome to the Programming Language Principles. Programming Language Principles. When designing a programming language, these principles are used. They give basic idea about what the characteristics should programming language may have. There are many different number of programming language principles are available. That doesn't mean each and every principle must adhere by the language that you design. Even modern high-level languages like Java, C, C#, C++ violate some of the principles. Therefore, these principles only gives some guidelines to create a powerful language. Different principles: abstraction principle, automation principle, defense in depth principle, syntactic consistency principle, portability principle, orthogonality, simplicity principle, regularity principle, structured principle, zero to infinity principle, information hiding, labeling principle, security principle, preservation of information, localized const and manifest interface. Regularity principle. Regular rules without exceptions are easy to learn, use, describe and implement. There should not exist any exceptions to grammar rules. Violations of regularity principle. In Pascal, usage of semicolon after a block statement is optional. Fortran can store strings in integer. In C, usage of semicolons after do-while loop. Use of semicolon after structures. In Ada, everything is dynamically scoped except exception handlers. Smalltalk unnecessarily includes arithmetic syntax where the message passing syntax used for everything else would suffice. Compliance of regularity principle. Location 000 always contains 0 in IBM 650 pseudocode. In ALGOL, a sequence of statements can replace a single statement using the block structure. Ada and Perl, unlike C, do not allow if clauses with a single statement to forego a closing statement. In Smalltalk, user-defined classes are indistinguishable from built-in classes. Algo has separate data types to store different type of data. Modern languages like Java, C++, C, C# consist of different data types to store different types of data. Fortran allows mixed mode operations. Abstraction principle. Avoid requiring something to be state more than once. Factor out requiring pattern. Any commonly occurring pattern in the program code should be identified and remove it to minimize the repetition of the pattern. There are some languages adhere for this principle as well as violate this principle. Violation of abstract principle. Fortran 77 does not support pointers and heap dynamic variables, so binary tree must be implemented using parallel arrays. Fortran 1990 does not have records, so arrays of records must be emulated using parallel arrays. The declaration of the common block structure in Fortran had to be repeated in each subprogram. Compliance of abstract principle. Fortran supported for subprogramming. Ada packages allowed for the certain of abstract data types. Modern languages like C, C#, Java, C++ allows creation of methods where repartition pattern is included. Automation principle. Automate mechanical, tedious or error-prone activities. When writing a program, if you write some piece of code that needed to be included everywhere throughout the program and the code need to be manual writing, those are called as mechanical, tedious and error-prone activity. Error-prone because several times you are manually writing the same code over and over again that increase the chance of making errors. Violation of automation principle. Fortran violates this by having control structures that are created by using arithmetic if and go to statements. For each program, these control structures had to be written in manually. As a result of that, control structures become error-prone, tedious and routing. Compliance of automated principle. Fortran adheres for this principle by having only high-level structure it has to do. It removes tedious, error-prone, mechanical and routing tasks. Defense in depth principle. If an error gets through one line of defense, then it should be caught by the next line of defense. This rule suggests that it is not enough to have only one line of defense because errors can go through that defense very easily. Therefore, if there are multiple lines of barriers, errors can not go through without detected by one of those barriers. Violation of defense in depth principle. C. Or generally fail to type check parameters passed in function calls. Fortran does not have exception handling or type checking. Fortran PLI Perl with implicit variable declaration. Compliance of defense in depth principle. Java compliance is a strong compliance which consists of a good syntax checker and type checker which will reduce the number of errors can be occurred in the runtime. It provides exception handling. Syntactic consistency principle. Things which look similar should be similar. The things which look different should be different. According to this rule, when something looks exactly similar to each other, they should behave in the same way. The language should have visually different constructs to avoid confusion between similar symbols for constructs. Violation of syntactic consistency principle. The meaning of static in C depends on the context. Fortran asterisk sign used for multiplication as well as two asterisk signs used for exponential operations. Fortran computed Goto and assigned Goto both looks like similar but operate in different way. Computed Goto used for selection and assigned Goto used for documenting purpose. C language uses asterisk for multiplication as well as pointers. Java, C#, C++, C has plus, subtraction, decrement, equal, assignment, which are look similar but operate differently. Compliances of syntactic consistency principle. Equal used for assignment and equal for equality. Portability principle. Avoid features or facilities that are dependent on a particular machine or small class of machines. Program that is written in a specific programming language should allow to run different machines rather than depend on one machine. Violations of portability principle. Fortran violates this principle by having arithmetic or if conditions. Those conditions programmers have to manually program. Fortran does not have any input to output routines. Therefore, programs had to manually write those into each program they create. Compliance of portability principle. Java is a portable language. Programs created in Java can be easily run in different machines. C++ programming language capable of developing software for more than one computer system. Both these languages consist of input-output routines. Orthogonality principle. Independent functions should be controlled by independent mechanisms. Let all combinations of a small set of primitives be legal, because even a small set of primitives lead to a large number of combinations, but too much orthogonality reduces simplicity and can make absurdities in the code difficult for the compiler to detect. Violation of orthogonality principle. C. Function can return records but not arrays. Records cannot hold void members or members of their own type. Arrays cannot hold voids or functions. Arrays are passed by reference, whereas everything else is passed by value. Pointer are arithmetic. In IBM mainframe assembly, when adding the contents of a memory cell to a register, one must state the register first and use different operation than when adding two registers. Compliance of orthogonality principle. In IBM 650 pseudocode, opposite operations are denoted by plus and minus. ADA operators used to control parameter passing by allowing the selection of the appropriate side effect without choosing a specific implementation of parameter passing, which by themselves have overlapping functionality in the read-write ability of the passing variable. Simplicity principle. The static structure of program should correspond in a simple way to the dynamic structure of the program. A language should be as simple as possible. There should be a minimum number of concepts with simple rule of their combination. The execution of a program should be easy to trace given its source code. Violations of simplicity of principle. Good statements are required in Fortran 77 to emulate while loops, and there are three similar look-in versions of goto statement with different behavior. ADA's exist statement is a scanlated disguised goto statement. ADA can exit loop at multiple locations. Compliance of simplicity principle. Pascal enforces single entry, single exit from loops. In C#, Java, everything is represented by a dot. Structured principle. The static structure of a program should correspond in a simple way to the dynamic structure of a program. The execution of a program should be easy to trace given its source code. Violations of structured principle. ADA's statement is a scanlated disguised goto statement. ADA can access loops at multiple locations. Goto statements are required in Fortran 77 to emulate while loops, and there are three similar looking versions of goto statement with different behavior. Compliance of structured principle. Pascal enforces single entry, single exit from loops. 0-1 infinity principle. The only reasonable numbers in a programming language design are 0, 1 and infinity. This is a special case of the regulatory principle. A programming language contrast should be limited to being singular, 0 or able to scale to infinity. Violations of 0-1 infinity principle. Fortran 77 arbitrarily limits identifier names to 6 characters. Fortran 77 arbitrarily limits arrays to 3 dimensions. Fortran limits the size of arrays. Compliance of 0-1 infinity principle. Anything equal can have any number of dimensions and can have negative indices. There is no limit on the depth of the class hierarchy in Smalltalk. Information hiding principle. The user has only the information required to use a module, and the implementer has only the information required to implement it. Changes in implementation does not affect other code, only changes in the interface. Unnecessary information should not be visible or modifiable. Violations of information hiding principle. All information passed on Fortran apart from common block use is done to parameters passed by reference, often forcing the program to specify more information than necessary. Compliance of information hiding principle. ADA packages. Labeling principle. Our long arbitrary sequence do not require users to know the absolute position of an item in a list. Instead, associate meaningful labels with arbitrarily ordered items. Use symbolic names instead of memory address or line numbers to associate with programming elements such as subroutines, variables, or operators. Violations of labeling principle. Numeric operations in IBM 650 pseudocode are non-descriptive. Compliance of labeling principle. Ada allows position-independent parameters. Security principle. No program that violates the definition of the language or its own structure should escape detection. The first condition is Mozilla compiler consideration. Strong typing in Eagle 160 Pascal, Ada C++. Compliance of security principle. IBM 650 programs could not address memory outside the 1000 addressable memory locations. Preservation of information principle. Allow representation of information that the user might know and the compiler might need. Violations of preservation of information principle. Perl arrays lose identities when passed into subroutine. C arrays can become pointers when written from a function. Compliance of preservation of information principle. Fortran programs were able to see what variables would be used for indexing in do loops and keep their values in index registers for optimization. Localized cost principle. Users should only pay for what they use. Avoid distributed cost. Violations of localized cost principle. Eagle 106 loops dynamic time binding. Manifest interface principle. All interfaces should be apparent in the syntax. Module specifications, function prototypes. Thank you. Our group members: K.S.A. Walavage, Ayuri Narachi, K.A.R.S. Hemchandra, N.R.H. Rupasinghe and U.K. Kahingal.